ago, they traded Elijah Moore and a third-round draft pick to the Cleveland Browns. Now are scheduled to have the number 42nd and number 43 picks in the second round. Elijah Moore wanted out of New York. Well, he gets his wish. It comes after the season.
So you guys know I'm currently visiting New York, and every time I come to New York, I have to pay a special visit to a Jewish religious burial site, which is the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Ohel. And that's about an hour and 15 minutes from where I'm staying. I'm like staying a block away from Wall Street. And as I was driving there in my Uber, I got this notification of some truly breaking news. And the reason why this news is significant is this one trade that the New York Jets made has a lot of links to a lot of other storylines going on, including a transaction they made earlier that day, including opening up a pathway to finally get Aaron Rodgers on the team. So before we get to the content, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, when he gets traded, I expected it to happen by now, but we're going to cover this as well because it's really weird. But the moment he does get traded, we're giving away $120 to multiple of my followers that retweet that tweet in front of you. A link to that's in the description down below. Now that we get all of that out of the way, work! As to how we're doing financially so far. I've made $5,407 so far, but it seems like my followers have been having significantly more success than I have. For example, my man Jess2K was able to make $800 by putting up $80. My man Anthony was able to make $1,250 off of putting up $50. And we're about to ramp things up because it's March Madness, bro. So if you haven't played PrizePicks and you want to make some money with us, all you have to do is go to PrizePicks, download the app, and use my promo code microphone, and they'll give you an additional $100 when you deposit $100. I post pics each and every day onto my Instagram story. I've been doing a lot of research on this recently to try to get us an edge. I've been learning a lot about this niche, by the way, and it's been a lot of fun learning about it, and I highly recommend it. It's a great way to get some action in some games that you may not have been paying attention to. So download PrizePicks and use my promo code microphone to get up to a $100 deposit match, and thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Today was a crazy day in regards to transactions because a lot of things still need to be cleared up. A lot of very high profile names still haven't necessarily made their decision as to where they're going to go. For example, we don't know where Bobby Wagner has signed. Don't know where Odell Beckham Jr. has signed. We're still waiting on DeAndre Hopkins to get traded. And I think this information I'm about to bring to you guys is going to severely impact DeAndre Hopkins' trade value. And if you happen to have signed a wide receiver last year or traded for a wide receiver last year, there's a chance that you're punching air. A good example of this would be when the Arizona Cardinals gave up a first-round pick for Marquise Hollywood Brown. I don't necessarily think Hollywood Brown would have gone for a first-round pick this year, but you'll see what I mean in just a sec. So earlier today, some foreshadowing for you, was Field Yates discussing the Green Bay Packers' current trade situation, saying, if I'm the Packers, I'm asking for Elijah Moore in the Aaron Rodgers trade negotiations. So the reason why he's saying this is the New York Jets signed Mecole Hardman earlier that day, which is fairly significant, by the way. And this is actually a really funny exchange. Check this out. Jeremy Fowler was first on the news. Mecole Hardman has agreed to terms with the Jets on a one-year deal, which is more speed for Cleveland's offense, which was really confusing because my buddy JPA earlier that day tweeted out that the Browns signed Mecole Hardman, and I was wondering why he thought the Browns signed Mecole Hardman. Now I can see why. Jeremy Fowler initially made a mistake on this news. Adam Schefter already quote tweeted it and left it up, so there you go. Jets now have a player to run jet sweeps and more. Very funny, Adam Schefter. The best part about this is Mecole Hardman actually quote tweeted that and said way more than just jet sweeps. Now the reason why this is so significant is at the time when you looked at the New York Jets wide receiver room, it was kind of overwhelming at this point because the New York Jets already added Allen Lazard earlier in the offseason, and to be honest, the New York Jets wide receiver room was already pretty decent prior to all these acquisitions. I mean, take a look for yourself. They had Garrett Wilson, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. They signed Allen Lazard, probably because Aaron Rodgers was going to come to town on a pretty significant contract, by the way. Allen Lazard's making $11 million a year to be a Jet. Then you have Mecole Hardman, who was just signed earlier today, Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, and Elijah Moore. Now, Davis and Moore are potential cut/trade names to watch. And to be honest, I just thought that they would cut Denzel Mims. I mean, it just hasn't been working out for Denzel Mims and the New York Jets. Yeah, he's had some great moments in the preseason, but apart from that, this man got like no playing time at all whatsoever this past year. Elijah Moore has had his own situation with the New York Jets as well. If you guys remember, he straight up called his offensive coordinator trash. Forgive me, he didn't call him trash, but he did say to his offensive coordinator, go f himself in practice after he was held without a catch in a win over the Packers in week 6. So here's the direct quote. His frustration spilled into practice that week. That Thursday, Moore surprised teammates and coaches by blowing up on Mike LaFleur, telling him to go f yourself and you suck, according to multiple people who witnessed the interaction. LaFleur and Saleh ultimately decided to send Moore home to cool off. That night, he requested a trade. I have fond memories about the Elijah Moore trade demand because this was the point in the season where New York Jets fans were very optimistic. And I came in and said, hey, Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims might be upset at Zach Wilson's quarterback play. But at the time, the Jets were winning games. So I guess I was a little too early on the,
hey, Zach Wilson's causing some chemistry issues on offense train.
But that's what would eventually happen. And actually, if you go into the comment section of that video that I did all the way back then, there's actually some funny comments about that. But I digress. The reason I'm telling you all of this and the way this links to Aaron Rodgers is, first, New York Jets, a few hours later, would officially trade Elijah Moore to the Cleveland Browns, according to Adam Schefter. And the compensation is pretty significant here. The Browns are trading for Jets speedy wide receiver Elijah Moore, a new threat in Cleveland. Terms, it's pick number 42 for Moore and pick 74. Now, you might be thinking,
Mike, I don't get it. Why is this significant?
The New York Jets essentially moved on from Elijah Moore and upgraded a 3rd round pick to a 2nd round pick. Makes a lot of sense. They have tremendous assets, but this is all upon in a bigger picture, in a bigger game that I'm going to bring up to you just a sec that probably links to Aaron Rodgers. But I want to discuss the trade first before we get to the compensation and whatnot. The very first thing you should know is Garrett Wilson does not like this trade at all whatsoever. He immediately tweeted saying, no, with a couple of sad emojis and crying emojis and whatnot, which I could understand, man. He probably was very close to Elijah Moore. But before I go way into the Jets side of this entire situation, because it's very easy to get lost in that conversation, I want to say that the Cleveland Browns made a great trade here, man. I mean, you downgraded a 2nd round pick to a 3rd round pick. You picked up a player that has tremendous potential in Elijah Moore. I saw something on Twitter that I thought was absolutely ruthless, where someone said that Elijah Moore is the Talon Horton Tucker of the NFL. That could be the case, because when I think of Elijah Moore, I see a guy that's passionate, fiery, and has potential to be a really good receiver. He just hasn't gotten good quarterback play to really prove that to us. He's shown flashes in the past, and this might be his opportunity to show us that he actually is an elite wide receiver. Assuming that Deshaun Watson could knock off the rust, I think Elijah Moore is going to thrive next to Amari Cooper, and I think Kevin Stefanski is a great offensive play caller. You have Watson, you have Chubb. Elijah Moore isn't going to cost very much either, which is great because Deshaun Watson has a decent cap hit coming in. I mean, over the next 2 years, the Browns will owe Elijah Moore $1.472 million in 2023 and $1.879 in 2024. He's only 22, has flashed the ability to be a real playmaker, and addresses an area of need at a very minimal price. I mean, honestly, I would much rather Elijah Moore and downgrade one of my picks than taking a flyer on a wide receiver in this year's NFL draft. I think it's a great risk to take if you are the Cleveland Browns. But what about the New York Jets? What's the New York Jets' prerogative in all this? Why are the New York Jets in this situation to begin with? Well, if you guys remember, and I don't want to go ahead and say that the Green Bay Packers are doing something right or something wrong, because at the end of the day, this is just how the situation is. Aaron Rodgers appeared on the Pat McAfee show about a week ago to let all of us know that he will play football for the New York Jets next year. The thing that's significant about this is, well, despite him saying this, there's been no Aaron Rodgers trade. So a part of us might be wondering, okay, why hasn't Aaron Rodgers been traded at this point? There might be some questions about compensation. Of course, if you're the Green Bay Packers, you might be just a little butthurt at the fact that you could have traded Aaron Rodgers for 2 first-round picks last year, but you decided to bring him back so you could have one more season with him under the helm with brand new wide receivers that resulted in you guys not even making it to the playoffs. That also resulted in him tanking his value because he is no longer the former MVP. He won the MVP back in back-to-back seasons before this year, but as a result of another year and him regressing from the year prior, which anyone could have told you, by the way. If you're trading Davante Adams and you're bringing in a bunch of rookie wide receivers, none of whom that you selected with the first round pick, you don't need to be a genius to know that Aaron Rodgers was probably going to regress a little bit. But I'm assuming that the Green Bay Packers are just a little salty at the fact that they're probably going to get like a second round pick for Aaron Rodgers at this point, or multiple second round picks, which is still pretty damn good considering the fact that Aaron Rodgers is 39 years old and is probably going to be playing football for 1 to 2 more seasons at best. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, of course, I understand the Packers side, I understand the Jets side, I know who has the most leverage in this situation. I think this entire deal is one pawn in a significantly larger game. And a very exciting game as well. A game that could, by the way, include Odell Beckham Jr., according to the recent rumors I'm hearing as well. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, before I get to how this affects Aaron Rodgers, I want you to know that there are rumors suggesting that the Jets have very real interest in signing Odell Beckham Jr. The team has already added Allen Lazard and Mecole Hardman. They just traded Elijah Moore and are likely to move on from Corey Davis next. Which, by the way, I'm so shocked. Nothing against Denzel Mims. It's just very interesting to me that out of all these receivers, they're giving Denzel Mims the most rope, even though he's shown us the least, but that's besides the point. The reason I'm bringing all this up is I believe what the New York Jets are trying to do here is they're just trying to load up draft capital for a potential Aaron Rodgers trade, which should be happening any day now at this point. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. The Jets' current draft picks, they have the number 13 pick in this year's NFL draft, the number 42 pick in this year's NFL draft, the very next pick as well, the number 43 pick. Then they lost their third round pick in this trade. So their next pick is a fourth rounder, number 112, then number 143, and then number 207. So I think the New York Jets are just trying to load up for a potential Aaron Rodgers trade, which would make a lot of sense at this point. And at this point, there's a lot of options as to what wide receivers you could pair up with Aaron Rodgers once you're able to get this deal done. I will say it is a little disappointing that we won't get the opportunity to see Elijah Moore catch passes from Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's going to be okay given the fact that Deshaun Watson, at least prime Deshaun Watson, is a good quarterback. I don't necessarily know what version of Deshaun Watson is going to come in next year, but it is also interesting looking at the market for wide receivers this year compared to last year. I mean, according to Albert Breer, the Arizona Cardinals will not be able to get their initial asking price of a second round pick and another asset in a trade for wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. He thinks it'll be closer to the Cowboys' Brandon Cooks trade of a 5th and a 6th round pick. There's two types of wide receiver trades that a lot of people don't pay attention to, and I hate the fact that these types of trades get compared to one another all the time, and maybe we should make our own separate video on this, but trading Amari Cooper to the Browns, or trading DeAndre Hopkins to whatever team, or trading Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys, all wide receivers that are in their late 20s/early 30s, by the way, with significant contracts. This isn't the same as trading AJ Brown for a first round pick, a player that has only been in the league for like 3 or 4 years and has shown you enough to prove that he could be a top receiver in this league. It's not the same. One trade is more of a salary cap dump, whereas the other trade is a wide receiver that has a tremendous amount of potential that's on a team that can't afford to pay him. So I hope I was able to cover every bit of this saga in this video. It is a crazy situation that we're in currently. This trade definitely spiced things up. It is a fairly significant trade for the New York Jets. It's just probably not the trade that they were hoping for. So we're going to keep you guys updated no matter what I'm up to or where I'm at. I will always bring you the news. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.